The strange signal the galaxy was quiet in the forgotten sector, a region of empty stars where no empire dared to travel. Only silence lived there, silence, and dark ruins from wars long past. The Zareth fleet drifted through the void on patrol. Their commander, Captain Relker, was not expecting anything unusual. His ships had been ordered to sweep the borders for smugglers, pirates, or rebels. It was boring work, but safe. Or so he thought. And the signal came down at first. It was faint. Nothing more than a whisper on their scanners. A simple pulse, one beat, then another. Almost like a heartbeat. Strange, muttered Officer Kelm, the young sensor operator. His long, scaled fingers tapped across the glowing console. This sector is empty. There should be nothing here. Captain Relker frowned. Could it be a lost beacon or a broken satellite? Kelm shook his head. No, Captain. The signature is different. Older, much older. The bridge fell silent. Every officer leaned closer to their screens, studying the strange rhythm echoing from the dark. It was slow, steady, and unnerving. Like something alive, Relker narrowed his red eyes. Location? Kelm hesitated. Ahead of us, Captain. About 1,000,000 clicks. A large mass. No heat, no movement. But it is there. The commander straightened in his chair. His fleet was made of 10 ships, enough to crush most raiders. Whatever this thing was, it did not frighten him. Bring us closer, he ordered. The fleet moved. 10 sharp warships cutting through the void, their engines glowing green against the endless black. As they approached, the scanners painted the shape of something massive, something that dwarfed even their flagship. The crew whispered to each other in low, fearful tones. It looks like a ship. No ship is that size. Maybe it's just a rock. A hollowed asteroid? But it was not a rock dot. As the distance closed, the shape became clearer. Long, sharp lines, vast armor plates. A silhouette that looked alien, and yet strangely familiar. Kelm's voice shook. Captain, I think it is a warship. Relker leaned forward. Whose? Silence. No one answered. The young officer's scales shimmered pale. His voice came out as a whisper. It looks human. The word sent a shiver across the bridge. Humans. The dead race. The forgotten enemy. The galaxy had not seen them for centuries. Legends claimed they burned bright for a short time, and then vanished, leaving nothing but myths. Some said they destroyed themselves. Others believed they fled beyond the stars. But everyone agreed humanity was gone. Relkor's lip curled into a harsh smile. Nonsense. Humans are dust. This must be something else. A derelict copy. A trick of design. But even he did not fully believe his own words. The signal pulsed again. Louder now, stronger. The heartbeat of something vast. Shall we send a probe? Asked Kelm, his voice thin. Do it, Relker ordered. A small drone shot. Forward from the fleet, a glittering needle against the dark. It raced toward the massive silhouette and vanished into the shadows of the giant ship. The fleet waited. Seconds stretched into minutes. The probe should have returned beta immediately. Instead, the comms went dead. Signal lost, whispered. Kelm, try again. Another probe launched. It too vanished without a sound. And then, for the first time, the alien crew heard a voice. It was broken. Distorted, ancient, but clear enough to freeze their blood. Leave. Every alien froze at their stations. The voice had spoken in standard trade tongue, the common language of the galaxy. And yet its accent was human. Cold, heavy, and unmistakable. The bridge filled with nervous hisses and whispers. Impossible. It can't be. Humans are dead. Captain Relker clenched his fists. His pride would not let him retreat, not before his crew, not before his fleet. It is just an echo, some old recording, nothing more. But deep inside, even he felt unease. The massive ship remained still, floating in the void like a sleeping beast. But slowly, almost lazily, tiny lights flickered across its hull. One by one, rows of windows and systems glowed awake. It was like watching eyes open in the dark. The Zareth fleet drifted closer, caught between fear and curiosity. None of them noticed how quiet the sector had become. No static, no cosmic background, hum only the low, steady beat of that terrible signal. Kellen's voice broke the silence once more. "Captain, I think it is watching us." Relker did not answer. For the first time, he felt something he had not felt in years. Fear. Asterisk. The silent shape, the Zareth fleet slowed as the shadow grew larger on their view screens. No one on the bridge spoke for several minutes. The massive shape dominated the dark horizon, a silent mountain drifting among the stars. Captain Relker gripped the armrest of his chair, his eyes locked on the silhouette. He had seen many ships in his lifetime, pirate destroyers, rival battleships, even the great flag vessels of the Therian Empire. None compared to this. It was not just big. It was immense. The hull stretched for kilometers, lined with jagged plates of blackened armor. Faint markings, eroded by centuries, hinted at symbols no one recognized. The sharp design carried a strange beauty, yet also a sense of menace, as if it had been built only to kill. The silence made it worse. Alien ships normally hummed with reactor fields, shield signatures, or at least some trace of energy. This one gave nothing. No heat, no radiation, no sound. It drifted like a corpse, but the crew could not shake the feeling that it was alive. "It doesn't move," whispered Officer Keln, his voice barely audible. "But I swear it is looking at us." "Enough," snapped Relker, though his own voice trembled. "Scan it again. Find a weakness. Find something." The scanners worked, sending invisible waves across the dark surface of the giant. The readings came back, broken, scrambled, almost meaningless. It was as if the ship's very skin swallowed their signals whole. A low murmur ran across the bridge. Officers exchanged nervous glances. "It's resisting the scan." "No ship can do that?" Relker forced his voice steady. "It is only technology. Old technology. If humans built this, they are long dead. We will take it apart. Bring the fleet closer." Engines roared softly as 10 alien warships drifted nearer, their weapons charged but not yet firing. The alien crews leaned forward, eyes wide as the ancient shape filled their screens. Keln's hands shook at his console. He spoke without turning. "Captain, the hull design is unmistakable. I studied ancient battle records at the Academy. This looks exactly like the Terran supercarriers." Relker hissed sharply. "A myth. Old propaganda to frighten children. Supercarriers were stories." Keln finally turned, his scaled skin pale. "And yet one lies before us." The words hung heavy in the air. The bridge lights flickered, just for a second, but enough to draw gasps. Every console flashed, then returned to normal. Officers tapped their screens in panic. "It's interfering with our systems." Relker slammed his fist against his chair. "Hold your positions. It cannot touch us from here." But then, the warship stirred. At first, it was only a glimmer. Small lines of light ran across its surface, like veins glowing beneath stone. Then, more lights blinked alive, spreading across the hull until the entire vessel glowed faintly. Like a beast waking from hibernation, every alien froze. The signal pulsed again through their comms. Louder now, stronger, the same heartbeat rhythm. And then came the voice clearer this time, like a whisper cutting through static. "Leave." This time, the crew could hear the cold edge of command in it. Not a warning, but an order. The alien. Officers erupted into frightened chatter. It's awake! We must retreat. This is no ghost. This is a weapon. Relker stood, his eyes burning. His pride roared louder than his fear. Silence. We are the Zareth Dominion. We do. Not run from shadows. But his words did not calm the crew. The warship's lights burned brighter. And then, with a soundless shift, the alien fleet's scanners registered what they had most feared. Energy. The human ship was powering up. Captain, Keln whispered, his voice broken. Its reactor output. It is beyond anything I have ever seen. Relker felt sweat on his hands. He knew Keln spoke the truth. But retreat meant shame, and shame was worse than death to a Zareth commander. Prepare weapons, he ordered at last, his voice low and grim. If this ancient monster dares to wake, we will put it back to sleep. But even as he spoke, he wondered if his fleet stood any chance at all. Because the silent shape was no longer silent. It was alive, and it was watching them. Asterisk. Warnings in the dark. The Zareth fleet held position, their ships floating like insects before a giant. Every crew member felt it, the pressure, the weight, the terrible presence of the silent warship now glowing with life. Captain Relker stood, stiff at the center of his bridge. His pride forced him to show no fear, but inside, unease gnawed at him like a hungry beast. Launch another probe, he commanded. Kalain single quotes S hands shook as he activated the sequence. A small drone shot away from the flagship, its tiny thrusters leaving a trail of light. The crew held their breath as it neared the human warship's hull. For 3 seconds, data appeared on the screen's armor composition, shield density, something about weapon ports, then everything cut to black. Static filled the comms. Keln's voice trembled. Probe lost. Relker gritted his teeth. Again, a second drone launched. It, too, vanished into silence. Then the bridge lights flickered once more. The consoles dimmed, the ship's power dropped, and for an instant, every screen on the go. Bridge turned black. When they returned, only one word pulsed across the monitors. Leave. The word burned and cold. Blocky human letters. Gasps echoed around the bridge. One officer stumbled back from his console. Another hissed in terror, his scaled skin turning pale. Relkor's voice was low, angry. Erase it. But before anyone could respond, the voice came again. This time there was no static, no distortion. It was deep, heavy, human speaking directly into their comms. You should not be here. Silence followed. No one moved. The air seemed heavy, like the weight of a storm pressing down on them. Keln swallowed hard. Captain, it spoke to us. Directly. An old defense program, Relker snapped, though doubt crept into his tone. A recording meant to frighten intruders. But the crew no longer believed him. They whispered among themselves, tails twitching, eyes darting nervously to the glowing giant outside. Then, without warning, one of the smaller Zareth frigates fired a shot. A narrow beam of plasma lanced across the void, striking the human ship's hull. The plasma beam vanished like water against stone. No mark remained, no smoke, no burn. It was as if the warship had absorbed the attack. The bridge crew froze. Then the human ship answered. Not with weapons yet instead. The heartbeat signal shifted. Faster now, stronger. Every console across the fleet vibrated with the pulse. The sound was deafening, a drumbeat pounding inside their skulls. Boom, boom, boom. With each pulse, alien systems faltered. Shields flickered, sensors shut down, engines stuttered. The Zareth ships trembled as if caught in the grip of something vast and unseen. Keln screamed over the noise. Captain, it's jamming us. It's inside our systems. Relkor's claws dug into the armrest of his chair. For the first time, fear showed in his eyes. How? This ship is centuries old. How can it do this? The answer came in the form of another voice. This one was not calm. It was harsh, commanding, full of cold fury. Turn back, or be destroyed. The crew looked at each other, their eyes wide with terror. No one had ever heard humans speak in their lifetimes. The myths said humans were clever, dangerous, ruthless. But to hear their voice after centuries of silence, it was like hearing a ghost. One of the junior officers broke down. "Captain, we must leave. This is not our fight. This is not our prey," Relker roared, his pride lashing out like fire. "Silence. We are Zareth. No dead race will threaten us." But even as he spoke, his voice cracked. Deep down, he knew the truth. This was no recording. This was no dead machine. This was a living weapon. The human warship's lights flared brighter, flooding the void with eerie white-blue glow. The alien fleet looked tiny before it, like prey before a predator. And then the first movement came. The human warship turned slowly, deliberately, until its massive hull faced the Zareth flagship. Ports opened along its surface, revealing dark barrels and hidden cannons. The ship did not fire. It simply aimed, thought it was a warning. The bridge fell into silence. Even Relker could not speak. Finally, Keln whispered what they were all thinking. "Captain, if it fires, we will not survive." Relker stared at the glowing monster outside, his pride cracking under the weight of fear. He wanted to command, "Retreat," but his voice would not form the words, because he understood now. The warnings were not empty. The humans were not gone, and if they ignored the warnings, annihilation waited in the dark. Asterisk the awakening, the Zareth fleet hovered in silence, trapped in the grip of fear. The human warship did not move quickly. It did not need to. Its slow awakening was enough to make the alien crews tremble. On the flagship's bridge, Captain Relker stood frozen, his claws digging into the chair's armrests. The giant before him was not a corpse, not a ruin, not a myth. It was alive. The heartbeat signal pounded louder, vibrating through their bones. Each thud echoed like a drum of war, shaking the decks beneath their feet. Boom, boom, boom. Every pulse was stronger than the last. The alien crews covered their ears, but it did not help. The sound wasn't just noise. It was inside them, inside their ships, inside their minds. Keln shouted over the din, his eyes wide. "Captain, its reactor is powering up. Energy levels. I cannot measure them. They keep rising." Screens flickered. Engines across the fleet stuttered. Even the flagship's shields dimmed as the human warship's presence pressed harder against. Their systems dot. Then the lights came dot. It began with a ripple across the warship's hull. Plates of blackened armor split apart, revealing hidden seams that glowed with blue-white fire. Massive weapon ports unfolded like the petals of a deadly flower. Railgun barrels extended, missile silos opened, and vast cannons hummed with gathering energy. The Zareth bridge crew stared in horror. "It's harming itself," one officer whispered. Relkor's pride broke under the weight of the truth. His voice came out low and harsh. "We must fire first. If we wait, we die." The order spread through the fleet. Weapons charged, plasma cannons glowed, and torpedo. Bays clicked into readiness. Relker raised his hand, ready to give the command. His voice thundered across the comms. "For the Dominion." But before he could finish, the human warship moved. For such a colossal vessel, its shift was terrifyingly fast. The entire ship turned, angling its massive hull directly at the flagship. Its weapon ports glared like 100 burning eyes. Then, silence. The heartbeat stopped. For a moment, the void held still, as if the galaxy itself was waiting. And then one flash. A single cannon fired. The beam tore across the void like the hand of a god. One of the Zareth destroyers, proud and armored, vanished in an instant. No explosion, no wreckage. Just light then nothing. Gasps filled the flagship bridge. An officer screamed. It erased them. One shot, it erased them. Kellen's scales turned pale as stone. Captain, we cannot fight this. We cannot. Relkor's throat burned. He wanted to deny it, to shout down the fear, but his words died. He had seen many battles. He had seen ships torn apart, but never had he seen erasure. The crew looked to him for orders. His silence was an answer of its own. And then the heartbeat. Returned dot boom. Boom. Boom got each pulse stronger, faster, heavier than before. The warship's full power was awake now. Across the Zareth fleet, systems screamed in protest. Shields flickered, weapons glitched, engines faltered. The alien officers shouted over alarms, their voices breaking with panic. It's shutting us down. My targeting is blind. The engines won't respond. On the flagship, Relkor's hands trembled. He had led fleets, conquered worlds, and crushed rebellions, but in this moment, he understood the truth. They were not hunters. They were prey. The human warship did not rush. It did not need to. With every slow turn of its guns, with every pulse of its terrible signal, it promised the same fate to each ship. Callan whispered the words no one wanted to hear. This is why humans were feared. This is why no empire could ever defeat them. Another shot erupted. A cruiser vanished into dust. Debris scattered, alarms screamed, and the fleet's formation broke. Retreat, one commander cried over the comms. Retreat before it destroys us all. But it was already too late. The human ship had chosen its prey. Its lights burned brighter, its weapons hummed louder, and the galaxy's silence broke with the sound of awakening death. Asterisk. The first shot the Zareth fleet broke formation, panic spreading like fire. The destruction of one ship had shattered their courage. The aliens had expected a dead relic, something they could study or strip for parts. Instead, they had woken a monster. On the flagship's bridge, Captain Relkor stood in silence, his throat dry. He had seen fleets torn apart in battle, but never with such ease. The human warship hadn't fired a volley. It hadn't unleashed its full strength. It had fired once, just once, and a warship had vanished as if it had never existed. The crew waited for orders, but Relkor hesitated. His pride screamed at him to fight. His survival instinct told him to run. The warship gave him no time to decide. The lights across its vast hull brightened again. The hum of its weapons built to a terrifying pitch. The ship did not move quickly. It moved with the slow certainty of a predator that knew its prey could not escape. Then came the second shot. A railgun slug tore through space, faster than light. It smashed into a Zareth cruiser, ripping straight through its core. The ship split. Apart, its halves spinning away, spilling fire and bodies into the void. Screams filled the comms. Officers shouted, begging for orders. Shields are collapsing. We can't target it. Its signal is jamming us. We must retreat. Relkor roared. Attack. All ships, focus fire. Now. The fleet obeyed. Plasma beams, torpedoes, and energy bolts lit up the dark as every Zareth ship fired at once. Dozens of blasts streaked toward the human warship. The void flashed with light, then dimmed. Every weapon. Strike vanished against its shields. The beams dissolved. The torpedoes detonated harmlessly, and the mighty railgun blasts bounced off invisible armor. The alien fleet stared in disbelief. Their strongest firepower had been meaningless dot than the warship. Answered dot dozens of cannons fired at once. The void became a storm of destruction. Blue lances of energy sliced through frigates, turning them into burning wrecks. Railgun slugs punched through destroyers, snapping them in half. Missiles erupted, chasing down fleeing ships, their explosions lighting the darkness like newborn suns dotting seconds. 3 more Zareth ships were gone. The survivors screamed in terror. It's unstoppable. Nothing can withstand this. Relker gripped the edge of his chair, his claws digging into the metal. He refused to believe it. We are the Dominion. Hold the line. But even his voice shook. He had never seen such firepower. The human ship wasn't fighting. It was demonstrating. The warship turned its main cannon toward the flagship. Its barrels glowed with terrible energy, humming with the promise of annihilation. Keln's voice cracked. "Captain, it has locked. Onto us." Relkor's breath caught in his throat. For the first time in his career, he felt truly powerless. His fleet was dying around him, their weapons useless, their courage gone. And still the human warship advanced, slow and steady, like a hunter savoring the kill. He forced himself to stand tall. If death was certain, he would not face it crawling. "All ships," he commanded, his voice hollow, "prepare to fire everything we have. If this is the end, we will meet it with teeth bared." The order spread. What remained of the fleet gathered, charging their last weapons. Plasma cannons glowed. Torpedoes armed. Railguns hummed. The aliens screamed their war cries across the coms, a desperate chorus against the silence of death. The human warship fired first. The flagship shook as energy tore past, narrowly missing its hull. Another Zareth destroyer was obliterated, its pieces scattering across the void. Relker clung to the railing. His heart thundered. He knew the truth now. Their firepower meant nothing. But still, he raised his hand, giving the only order left to him: fire. The Zareth fleet unleashed everything in a single desperate volley. Space lit with explosions, beams, and fire. For a brief moment, it looked like the stars themselves had turned to war. But when the light faded, the truth remained. The human warship was untouched. It hovered in silence, its weapons glowing, its presence crushing. The galaxy's myths had not lied. Humans had built monstrous machines of war, so powerful no empire could match them. The crew of the flagship stared in hopeless silence. For the first time in their proud history, the Zareth Dominion understood what true fear was. And the human warship had only begun. The last stand, the battlefield was fire and ruin. Half the Zareth fleet already floated as broken wrecks, their twisted hulls glowing with dying flames. The rest scattered in panic, engines burning as they tried to flee the unstoppable giant. But there was no escape. The human warship moved forward, slow and steady. It was not chasing. It was hunting. Each weapon fired with terrifying precision. Every shot finding a target, every target erased. On the flagship's bridge, Captain Relker gripped the railing, his eyes fixed on the burning void. Sweat ran down his scaled skin, but his voice was steady, cold. "This is the end," he muttered. His crew looked at him, waiting, desperate for orders. Some wanted to run, others wanted to surrender. But Relker knew neither choice mattered. Running was hopeless. Surrender meant nothing to a machine of death that had already warned them twice. He straightened his back. Pride was the only thing left. "All ships," his voice rang out across the coms, "form up on me. We fight as one. We do not die crawling." There was silence, then scattered replies, weak at first, then louder, filled with desperate courage. "For the Dominion. For honor. We stand together." The survivors pulled back into formation, limping but defiant. Weapons glowed, engines roared, shields sparked to life one last time. The human warship watched. Its massive cannons swiveled toward the cluster of alien ships. For a brief moment, it almost seemed to pause, as if acknowledging their choice. Then the heartbeat came again. Boom, boom. Boom. Every alien felt it in their bones. The sound was not just a warning anymore. It was a death knell. Fire. Relker roared. The Zareth fleet unleashed everything: beams of plasma, storms of torpedoes, railgun slugs faster than light. The void exploded with color, their final. Fury brighter than 1,000 suns. The comms filled with shouts, war cries, and screams. Crews emptied their last weapons, pouring every fragment of rage and fear into the storm. For a moment, it looked beautiful, and then the light faded. The human warship remained untouched. Its shields shimmered, its hull unbroken, its weapons glowing. Brighter than ever, Relker stared, his chest heavy. He had known this would happen, but still, the reality cut deeper than any blade. His fleet's greatest effort had meant nothing, and the warship fired back. The retaliation was not slow this time. It was a storm. Railguns roared, tearing destroyers apart like paper. Energy cannons swept across formations, burning ships into dust. Missiles screamed through the void, hunting the weak and broken. Each explosion lit the battlefield. Each blast silenced another crew. Within seconds, 5 more ships were gone. The comms filled with chaos. They're everywhere. My shields are gone. Help us. Static swallowed the voices one by one. On the flagship, Kelm clung to his console, tears streaming down his scaled cheeks. Captain, we are finished. We must retreat, please. Relkor's jaw tightened. He wanted to say yes. He wanted to run. But the hunter outside would not allow it. He knew this. The human warship's main cannon glowed brighter than ever, its light flooding the flagship's bridge. Relker felt its gaze, heavy and cold, as if the ship itself were staring into his soul. For the first time in his life, Captain Relker whispered a prayer. Not for himself, but for the galaxy. Because if this was only one warship, what else? Had humanity left behind? The heartbeat thundered again. Boom, boom, boom. Relker raised his head high. His crew looked at him, terrified, broken. He gave them the only gift he had left, his pride. Stand ready, he said, his voice calm at last. If we are to die, we will die facing them. The human warship's cannon fired. Light consumed the void, and the flagship vanished. Silence in the stars. When the light faded, there was nothing left of the Zareth flagship. The proud vessel, the voice of its fleet, was gone, erased in an instant. The battlefield lay quiet. Pieces of broken ships drifted like ash in the void. Fires flickered inside shattered hulls, their glow fading with each passing moment. The screams that had once filled the comms were silent now. Only one presence remained, the human warship Dot. It drifted forward slowly, its vast form cutting through the wreckage. Not rushing, not celebrating, not hunting further. Simply moving, as though it were checking its work. Its weapons still glowed with power, but they did not fire again. The storm was over. The prey was gone. In the distance, one last Zareth frigate tried to limp away, its engines sparking, its hull bleeding air and flame. The ship crawled forward, desperate to escape into the dark. The human warship turned toward it. For a long, terrible moment, the two ships faced each other. One was broken, dying, helpless. The other was ancient, whole, and unstoppable. The human ship raised no weapon. It only pulsed the signal again. Boom. 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 The sound filled the fleeing frigate's comms, shaking its crew to their core. They cried out, begging, praying, cursing. But no answer came. The frigate's engines flickered once more, then died. The ship went dark, floating silently among the ruins. And so, the battlefield fell quiet. The human warship's lights dimmed one by one. The glowing seams across its armor closed, weapons folded back into place, and its massive hull darkened until it was once again a shadow among the stars. It did not chase. It did not leave. It simply returned to silence, as though the battle had never happened. To the galaxy, the Zareth fleet had vanished. No distress call had escaped. No survivor lived to tell the story. 10 warships had entered the forgotten sector. None had returned. And yet, deep in the void, the truth remained. Humanity was not gone. They had left behind guardians machines of war, sleeping giants that waited in the darkness, watching, waiting. The galaxy had laughed at the old myths. They had believed humans were weak, short-lived, a species that burned too fast and disappeared into history. But the myths had not lied. The myths had only been warnings. And now, one more fleet had learned the truth. The Zareth Dominion would never know what had happened to their patrol. Their records would show silence. Their commanders would ask questions. But no answers would come. Only the stars knew. Only the wreckage whispered the story. And the warship, still drifting, would wait again. Silent, patient, eternal. Because if the galaxy ever forgot, if another fleet came too close, the awakening would come again. And just like tonight, there would be no survivors. The void grew quiet once more, a graveyard of fire and silence. And in its heart, the last ghost of humanity stood guard. Asterisk.